scars are still clear, and the pain is as intense as ever. The haunting will not leave me. It never can. Time Transfixed by Jenny Hollander. I still have nightmares about the accident. I wake up in the middle of the night screaming about ambulance sirens. And Karen's face, empty, bloody, and so glassy. I need to talk to someone so badly about how I feel. But there is no one to talk to. No one to come up when I have nightmares and hold me. No one to tell me it's all right. No one hears, and no one cares. I can see her now, Karen. It's a clear image and firm in my mind. I don't even try to brush it away. Suddenly, I can even remember her soft, caring voice in my ear. You can remember, she whispers, and there's so much ferocity in her tone, I back away. Remember, Elle. You can remember. You can. You must. Karen was always like that, pressuring me into things I didn't want to do. Remember, she murmurs, softer this time. The image fades until I can't see her anymore. I reach out for her with all my might, just trying to bring her back. But she won't come. Our arguments always ended up this way. I always seem to end up doing what she wanted. Not this time, no. I refuse to remember, to even think about her anymore. I try to concentrate on my algebra homework instead, trying to puzzle out the x's and y's in equations. But the ink blurs and fades, and suddenly I'm back in that dreadful night 3.5 years ago. I tilt back my chair and sob into my hands as it all comes flooding back. It was a cold, frosty night, and I was shivering as we sat in Karen's car, sipping our beers. Karen and I were in the front seat. Todd and Jody, the guys we met at the party, were in the back. It was them who'd encouraged us to buy the beer in the first place. I hated it. We all sat in mute silence. Karen and I exchanged looks. Pathetically, I tossed my beer aside. Shouldn't we be getting home now? I said feebly to Karen, tossing her the keys. Judging by her face, she had the same opinion of the beer as I had. Yeah, okay, she said loudly. Do you guys want a lift? They grunted in approval. Karen put the keys in the accelerator and turned on the central heating. But I was still cold. She took off her red sweater and draped it over my shoulders. I thanked her with my eyes and slowly drifted off to sleep as the car jolted into motion. Next thing I knew, I was being shaken awake. The boys had gone, and so had the remains of Karen's beer. She was obviously drunk, and her face was green. I don't think I can drive, she said, looking at me pleadingly. With a sigh, I took the keys and started the car. I hadn't gotten my license yet, but I was 17 after all, and I hadn't drunk half my beer. I was so sure we'd get home easily. No problem at all. On the way back, Karen cheered up considerably. She and I were laughing and joking as the car whipped around curves at 70 miles per hour. The radio was turned on full blast. Karen said something funny. I can't really remember what, and I laughed so hard. I missed the turn, and Karen's little red Beetle slammed into an oak tree. I woke up in the hospital bed at around 4 the following evening. Apparently, a passerby had found us and the smashed car and dialed 911. When I woke up, dazed and confused, with a huge white bandage around my head, I demanded where Karen was. When told that she hadn't made it by a passing nurse, I wouldn't stop screaming. My best friend was dead, and I only had a black eye, a broken leg, a concussion. How could I ever forgive myself? I was told Karen lived for 3 to 4 minutes after the wreck, but her internal injuries were too bad for the doctors to save her. When I had to see Karen's mom and dad at her funeral, I apologized, but ended up in tears. Her parents didn't even accept my apologies. They just walked away. I felt angry at them at first, but then I decided it was understandable. I feel the same way. School was a nightmare for months afterwards. Karen had always been popular, much more than me. People saw me in the corridors and whispered about me being the girl that killed Karen. Without thinking straight, I now pick up a shoebox from under my bed and start delving through it until I find the article. I hold it up to my face and try to read it through my tears. Girl driving drunk kills best friend. Underneath it said that Elle White, 17, had been driving home after a night of drinking and smoking when she hit a tree. Her best friend, Karen, also 17, had been killed in the wreck. The paper described Karen as a lovely, vibrant girl, so full of life. They called me a ruthless blonde who didn't think. How could they say such things? How could anyone say such things? Suddenly, the image of Karen comes floating back again. She looks the same as before, if a little sadder. The image winks, then it brushes away a tear, then fades. For Karen's birthday that year, October 17th, I came to her grave with a card and a birthday cake. There I found her grandma, her mom, and her dad. I thought for sure they'd send me away faster, being as awful as they were at the funeral. But instead, her mom hugged me and told me she didn't blame me anymore. The grandma and dad stood in the background, wiping away tears. I hugged Karen's mom hard and told them all once again, I'm so sorry.
A woman's hat is close to her heart, though she wears it on her head. It's her way of saying to the world, see, this is who I am, or this is who I should like to be. Famous hat maker of the 20th century, Lily Daucher, once said this in her autobiography, Talking Through My Hats. I would have to agree with this statement. When I was in the 6th grade, I acquired a box of hats that had belonged to my grandma. At first, I was captivated by the novelty of such a unique fashion accessory. But after further inspection, I started to realize that each hat had a story all to its own. A pink and white straw hat, which was perfect for the mother of the bride. A white ribbon-covered pillbox, which was fit for the festivities of a spring graduation. And many more, each for a certain purpose or special event. According to Hatsuke.com, a hat is a cover for the head. It can come in any form, soft or structured, smart, casual, or practical. Today, I will first explore the history of the hat, and second, I will discuss its many uses. To start with, the hat has endured a rich history that dates back to primitive man, except the first head covering was far from the sophisticated designs of today. It probably only consisted of animal skin being pulled over the head to protect the wearer from the weather. Nonetheless, the idea of covering the head seemed to have some benefits. During the Egyptian, Roman, and Greek time periods, the hat was used as a symbol of status. One of the first hats found in history was a type of straw hat depicted in the artwork of an Egyptian tomb. Other early hats include the pelisse, which was a simple skull cap, the liberty hat, which was given to freed Roman and Greek slaves, and the pistasos, which was the first known hat with a brim. The primary material used to construct these early hats was felt, which was discovered by the nomadic tribes of Asia. But by the 15th century, the variety of supply began to grow and included materials such as silk, velvet, taffeta, leather, and beaver. Likewise, the design of the hat also changed as quickly as the materials used. During the medieval time period, men wore woolen hoods, and women wore a large array of high-shaped hats and veiling. Flat caps called Tudor bonnets were worn by men during the Renaissance, and solemn narrow-brimmed hats emerged during the 17th century and were worn by members of the Puritan and Quaker faiths. Along with the change in appearance, the purpose and use of hats has changed significantly throughout the years. Uses for hats in today's society include giving protection, showing identity, and complementing fashion. Protected head coverings are the most widely used hats today. They can give protection on the job site and from the weather. The hard hat, which was invented in 1919, is the basis of most protective headwear on the job site. According to Leslie Hobb in A History of Hard Hats, the Ballard Company produces 6 million hard hats each year, which are sold to protect workers' heads. The first hard hat zone was established at the construction site of the Golden Gate Bridge to protect workers from potential dangers. Project manager Joseph Strauss believed that the workplace should be a safe place for the worker. Another popular hat used for protection was the Stetson cowboy hat, invented by John Stetson in 1865. It was while on a trip to Pikes Peak that Stetson invented his first crude rendition of the hat, which he sold to a passerby for $5 in gold. The construction of the Stetson protected the wearer from the sun, wind, and rain, but it could also be used as a drinking cup, a horse trough, a pillow, and yes, even a decoy in a gunfight. According to Tyler Beard in 100 Years of Western Wear, durability was the virtue of the Stetson. You could dirty it, stomp on it, soak it, or shoot a hole clean through it, and with little effort it could retain its original character and shape. Another popular use for hats is to show identity. Hats can show identity on a number of different levels, including religious, ceremonial, and occupational. On the religious level, different hats are worn by different denominations, such as the yarmulke in the Jewish faith and the hijab in the Muslim faith. The mitre is worn by important male leaders of the Catholic faith and can be dated back to pagan times. In the year 1100, it started to be used for religious purposes, and the two stiff peaks on top represent the Old and New Testaments. As far as ceremonial hats are concerned, I'm looking forward to wearing the mortarboard to my high school graduation ceremony in May. The mortarboard has an interesting origin. At one time, both the clergy and the laity wore a similar medieval square-shaped hat, but over time, a gap began to develop between the clergy and the scholars, so that each group slightly modified the original hat. Hence, we now have the modern-day mortarboard, which is a symbol for scholars everywhere. Many hats have also been worn on the occupational level, such as the nurse's cap, various military hats, and the chef's hat. According to the Canadian Museum of Civilization Corporation's website, the chef's hat, the 100 stiff white pleats on the chef's hat, represent the number of ways a master chef could prepare an egg, which was considered a sacred symbol of the universe. Finally, my favorite use for hats is fashion. For most of the 19th century, the women's fashion hat was based on the bonnet. But when the 20th century arrived, there were no rules as far as hats were concerned. During the Roaring